Hey guys, welcome to Salt and Cincy, our first episode. My name is Andrew. I'm a local realtor and certified Cincinnati hype man. And I'm super pumped to be here with my special guest today, Lisa French of the Brewing Heritage Trail.
Hello.
Thanks for joining us.
How are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
I'm super glad that you're here. And
Very
we got a
excited to
couple
be here.
beers
We
and
do.
chat everything brewery. So I'm super excited. So Lisa, I know like Cincinnati's got this super rich brewing heritage. Can you like explain why Cincinnati is so big into the beer scene and what makes it such a mecca for beer drinkers and breweries alike?
Absolutely. So our heritage dates back well into the early 1800s. When Cincinnati just started forming, beer was starting to come into our city, but mostly from the Irish people, the British people. Those were the original folks moving in here, and their breweries opened up serving ales.
Okay.
That beer did not require long fermentation time, did not require any special temperature, pretty easy to make and quick to turn around.
Okay.
So that's where we started. But by the 1820s and 30s, we started to see a large influx of Germans coming into the area. And when they did, they brought a slightly different ale style recipe with them. It was a little bit more robust, maybe, than what had been here already. And they started opening up breweries. But the numbers of the Germans who just kept coming and kept coming and kept coming really prompted the need for more and more breweries to open. So about 1800, we had 6 breweries. By 1855, we had 26 breweries.
Wow.
And by 1859, we had 36 breweries.
Dang. All right.
Now, there was a guy over in Germany, and he found a new strain of yeast. Now, I don't know, honestly, if he decided to try something or if it was a mistake, but at some point somebody thought, I wonder if I let this particular yeast ferment at about 45 degrees for 6 months, I wonder what would happen. But that is what somebody did.
Wow.
And that became lager beer.
Okay.
So that new style of beer, lower alcohol content, cool to drink, it became the preferred beer. So all of those breweries after 1840 started switching over or massively adapting to lager style beer. And that just kept growing up until the Civil War.
Okay. Now, I know here in Cincinnati, we have a huge influx of lagering tunnels.
We do.
Is there anywhere else in the U.S. that compares to the amount we have?
No, not to the number that we have. If you go to St. Louis or you go to Milwaukee, you will get into lagering tunnels in those cities. But the volume of preserved lagering tunnels that we have outnumbers the other cities.
Wow. Is there an exact amount, how many we have? Or are there still some hidden? Or
We don't know.
Okay.
Right? We assume that there are some hidden. We know there are some that exist that we can't get into.
Okay.
They've been sealed up. For example, the parking lot across from Japs.
Yeah.
There's a parking lot there. We believe that there's a full lagering tunnel underneath of there, but we have no way to get in.
Wow.
So those kinds of scenarios still exist, and we don't know if there are others. But we can probably walk into somewhere around 12 to 15 tunnels in this city.
Okay.
Not all of them are as nice as others.
Yeah.
But they're there.
Yeah, you have Ghost Baby, and then you have the other tunnels.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now the Brewing Heritage Trail, will you explain to people what you guys do and what your mission is and you know, yeah.
Yeah, so the Brewing Heritage Trail is really a subset of a larger organization called the Brewery District Community Urban Redevelopment Corporation. That's a mouthful, right? So that's kind of like the parent nonprofit that was set up.
Cool.
And the original mission of that was really to develop the north over the Rhine area, north of Liberty, into a brewery district.
Okay.
So we accomplished that in probably 2016, 2019 period of time. And part of that then was an offshoot called the Brewing Heritage Trail.
Okay.
Now, the Brewing Heritage Trail has a focus on education. We run tours. We take people through underground lagering tunnels in north over the Rhine. And most every tour ends at a current brewery where we can have a pint of beer.
Absolutely.
But the whole mission is for us to educate people on why are these buildings here?
Yeah.
Why are they important to Cincinnati? And please, why you should not tear them down or let them become any more, in distress than they already are.
Yeah, it's something really unique, like you said earlier, that we have here in Cincinnati that nowhere else in the U.S. does.
part of what we also have in Cincinnati, a lot of people may not know, is the largest number of preserved Italianate architectural styles.
Okay.
So you can think about the boroughs of New York, you can think about the French Quarter, and you see that style of architecture there that we have here and over the Rhine. And you would think, well, both of those areas probably have far more buildings than we do.
Right.
But both of those cities underwent huge renovations and resurgences, and those buildings were torn down.
Okay.
This area of Cincinnati was pretty much just left alone. They didn't see value in the neighborhood, so nobody tried to develop it.
Oh.
So all of those buildings are still here.
That's cool.
So we have the largest number of preserved. Does it mean you can go into all of them easily? No.
Right.
But the facades are still there.
That's really cool. That's something I didn't know, and something, being a realtor here in the city is a big beneficial to serve and, educate my consumers and guests.
Correct.
So that's really exciting. Now, the Brewing Heritage Trail does something really cool every year, and it signals the start of spring in my book, and I think a lot of people's book. Can you give a brief history on Bockfest and educate people like what it is? Because a lot of people don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Bockfest is what we call the funkiest festival in Cincinnati year-round. Last year, there was a top 10 of festivals in Cincinnati, and we made the list. We were pretty excited about that.
Right.
Not quite as high up on the list as I would have liked, but we made the list.
Hey.
And that means Oktoberfest and, the big ones. We were running with the big dogs. But it started for us in 1993.
Okay.
Back in the day, merchants on Main all were looking for ways to bring people down to Main Street and to the neighborhood. And at the same time, Hudepol was releasing a new Bock beer.
Oh, cool.
So heads were put together and they thought, well, how should we celebrate this new beer? How can we benefit the people on Main Street? And the idea of Bockfest was born. There was a parade that was kind of the opening to this big festival. And for whatever reason, because Bock beer was originally discovered or invented in the 14th century, they felt that Renaissance clothing was appropriate for Bockfest.
Okay.
They felt that German clothing, because that's where Bock beer was discovered, is appropriate for the festival.
Yeah.
So that is why, to this day, if you go to our Bockfest at all, anywhere, you will see people dressed up in some fairly outrageous costumes that represent either German heritage or Renaissance period heritage.
Okay.
Now, I can go deeper if you want to know about how did we even get to why Bock beer exists, if you want me to.
Let's talk. We have a couple Bock beers here.
We do.
Let's
Should we sample?
Let's absolutely.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheer. Prost.
Prost. There we go.
There you go.
Prost. Now, can you explain a little bit about Bock beer as well?
Absolutely. So, like I said, 14th century. You've got a bunch of monks who were the original brewers.
Okay.
And those monks, during Lent, were required to fast. And the amount of food that they were allowed to intake became very minimal. So by drinking a yeastier beer, they could feel fuller throughout the day. And they had other yeasty styles of beer, but somebody thought, this particular recipe seems to be a little bit more tasty and a little bit more filling. In order for them to be allowed to drink that beer, they had to send it to the current pope in the 14th century, who was probably in France at the time, on the other side of the Alps.
Okay.
So they didn't know how to preserve beer. So they sent a keg of it along. By the time it got to the pope, it had turned. It was disgusting. But the pope thought, wow, if these guys are willing to drink this, let them have it, because I'm not going to drink it, but if they want to drink it, they can. Not knowing that back at home, these guys were really having a wonderful time drinking this Bock beer. So there are two versions to the reality of the name, Bock beer. I will tell you the more probably historically accurate one, and that is because these monks were from the town called Einbeck, Germany. And Beck, kind of sounds like Bock.
Yeah.
And the German word for goat is Bock.
And that's why you see people with goat horns on throughout the festival. Okay.
So either people say it came from Einbeck and they heard Einbach and then it became Bock beer. That's a very plausible explanation. But that's not the explanation a lot of people tell. And I can assure you, I was in Munich. I went on a tour in Munich, and the story I'm going to tell you was told to me in Germany. Okay. But we were telling it here too in Cincinnati. The preferred story is that there were some monks who were in a bar, and they were actually sampling each other's Bock beers. And one of them had just a little bit too much to drink. Bock beer has a higher alcohol percentage than the majority of lager style beers.
Okay.
So he over imbibed. He was a little bit, tipsy. He stood up from the stool he was sitting on and he fell to the floor. Oh. He was embarrassed. He jumped up and he said to the other gentleman, he goes, "Did you see that goat that just ran in here and knocked me down?" And they said, "Their only goat that was in this room is the one that's in your stomach." So they started calling it the Bock beer because it kind of hit you.
Okay.
So I've heard that story, like I said, not only here in Cincinnati, but when I was in Germany as well.
I like that
So
story.
we prefer that story.
Yeah, I like that one.
Is it accurate? I'm not 100% sure.
You know what? I'm going to say it is.
Yeah.
We'll do that one. So tell me a little bit about, what people can expect when they come to Bockfest. I know that it's changed a couple times, and most recently it's updated a little bit and evolved. So tell me a little bit about that.
So the evolution of it was, it always moved around. And let me explain what that means. We have something called a Bockfest Hall.
Okay.
So Bockfest Hall is supposed to be the central gathering area after the parade, and then throughout the weekend, you should expect to see live music. You should expect to see food, sausage related, and you should have beer, right?
Okay, yeah.
And in the beginning, the very first Bockfest Hall was in an abandoned building on Main Street. I think it was called Tower Furniture. And that's where it started.
Okay.
But then that building either got sold or renovated. So then they had to move. And then they went to the old Jefferson Hall. And I don't know what order it all happened, but they moved around over the Rhine. Eventually, they were able to secure a long-term spot at what many people know as Bockfest Hall, previously known as Husband Potato Chip.
Okay.
Prior to that, originally it was built as a malting facility for a brewery here in Cincinnati called Kaufman.
Oh, cool.
So this building was vacant on one side, had a huge warehouse area that was perfect for Bockfest, and then it had a finished side with a bar. So that is where all the festivities were occurring until they put the building on the market for sale. People started renting out the sides we were using. We were no longer able to use that building.
Yeah.
So we moved to Findlay Park.
Okay.
Findlay Park was right around the corner. It had a lot of space. We could still put up a giant tent. No indoor space, but we managed. We ran it there for 2 years, and the city said, "Oh, sorry, we're going to be building a recreational facility on that property. You can no longer use it." So we are now out of appropriate size space in over the Rhine to host the size tent and the number of people that come to Bockfest.
Yeah.
So last year, we reached out to some of the larger breweries in Cincinnati and asked them if they would be our Bockfest halls.
Oh, cool.
So we moved to a new model. Last year, we had Rheingeist, Northern Row, and Moorline on the River as our main Bockfest halls,
Okay.
assuming all of the responsibilities of the original Bockfest hall. They have live music, they have sausage-based food, they have Bock beer, and you can take the streetcar to all of them.
Yeah.
And we have other venues throughout downtown and over the Rhine who said, yeah, we're going to serve your Bock beers here. We're going to have drink specials. We're going to have food specials. We're going to have some music too. So while you won't get the same number of Bock beers at the venues, you can go to these venues and still find a lot of the different beers that are being sold at the big ones.
Yeah.
So this year, there's been a lot of people saying we miss Bockfest Hall, we miss Bockfest Hall, and we agree.
Yeah.
This was not our choice. But the end of the parade on Friday night really does need kind of a spot to go to afterwards. And Rosedale, which is on 12th Street, said, hey, we have this courtyard next to our bar. We think we could host some of your after parade festivities. We'd like to be a Bockfest Hall.
That's cool.
So we're doing that this year.
Nice.
We're going to see how that works out, and hopefully we can fit a lot of people in.
Yeah.
And we'll do our traditional post-parade festivities.
Very cool.
At Rosedale, we still have Moorline, Northern Row, and Rheingeist as our Bockfest halls.
Yeah.
And we have, I think, a total of 15 other sponsoring venues that are available as well.
Very cool. And I like that it's kind of grown from over the Rhine and Main Street to really spread out through the entire city.
Right.
Which is a testament to not only you guys and the work you do, but to the love of beer here in Cincinnati. I think people really do love beer. They love the German culture. And, we'll take any excuse to drink a beer and have a hot dog or a sausage. So
and hope that we really are going to be stepping into spring, right?
100%.
We've all been cooped up.
Yeah.
We want to get out and do something.
Yeah.
And this is pretty much the kickoff event in Cincinnati that kind of says, all right, baseball's around the corner. Let's go.
Absolutely.
And FC is
FC
literally
and
right around the corner.
Opening day is right after that. So it's a good kickoff. Now, leading up to Bockfest, there are a couple events. Can you explain to me what some of those are and some of the lore around some of the cool things?
So we have this wonderful little thing happening right now called Sausage Queen Preliminaries.
Okay.
So we have a Sausage Queen. The role really originated that very first year. And it was not a queen per se, but it was a man, I think it was Jim Tarble, who walked in front of the parade carrying a tray of sausage, Bockwurst.
That's funny.
So over time, a lady ended up taking over that responsibility, and she carried the tray of Bockwurst throughout the opening of the parade. She got to a point where she was like, you know what, I really can't be continuing to do this. How about you get somebody else? And the decision was made, let's have a competition. We just don't want any particular person carrying our tray of meat.
Yeah.
We want to vet them out. So now it is traditional to have 5 preliminary competitions at different bars in Cincinnati. So we've already had our preliminary at Motor Pub.
Okay.
We had a preliminary at Crazy Fox Saloon, Northern Row. The last 2 are going to be Arnold's and Voodoo Brewing down on 8th Street.
Yeah.
So these ladies or men, this is a non-gender specific role, even though we call it a queen, have 3 main criteria. They have to have personality. They have to say why they believe they should be representing Bockfest carrying a sausage
It's a big title.
tray.
It's like Miss America here in Cincinnati.
100%.
Yes.
Number 2, they actually have to walk around the bar that they are trying out at and present a tray of sausage to all the guests, and they cannot drop the sausage.
Okay.
Then third and final, they need a talent.
Okay.
So they will have a competition at these 5 bars. A princess will be chosen from each bar. That princess will then go on to compete against the other 4 at Rheingeist on Saturday night of Bockfest.
Okay.
And a new queen will be crowned.
Okay.
They are required to carry a tray of sausage in the parade, and we have assigned many other official duties for them throughout the year that their role does require them to perform.
Now, what is the craziest talent you've seen a sausage queen do?
Well, I don't know crazy is the word, but we had one who chose to paint. She was wearing a sausage costume. She chose to paint herself with condiments on an easel,
That's so funny.
So that's a unique one. We have had, people sing. We've had people dance. There are all kinds of different things. You don't necessarily have to have like a God-given talent.
Yeah.
You can have a creative talent that you make up and tell us it's important that you can do that.
Yeah.
Right? So everyone is very creative that we have seen. And when they sing, they're not just singing a random song. They typically take a somewhat popular song and change the lyrics to something Bockfest specific.
I saw a video of last year's Sausage Queen this couple weeks ago sing Hot to Go by Chapel Roan.
That is Queen Deborah.
Yes, Queen Deborah changed it to Bockfest lyrics,
That's
which I
right.
was really impressed. It was really good.
And this year she has come up with another song that she's changed the lyrics to, and the chorus is Bockfest Hall. And I can't get it out of my head because I've seen it a few times now, and it's really good, So that is what they do. So that is a preliminary event that is currently ongoing. We will have a precipitation retaliation. This has been going on since 2009.
Okay.
In 2009, there was some really nasty weather or 2008, I'm sorry, that rolled through. And they didn't want that happening again because it canceled a lot of the events. It was a snowstorm.
Oh, wow.
So the following year, they decided if we take a paper mache snowman and we burn him in effigy the week before the parade, that should ward off the bad weather. So that's going to happen at Northern Row on February 28th. Queen Deborah will have the official honors of lighting the snowman on fire, and it is to the weather gods to appease them to prevent bad weather from drowning us.
So since we've had this, have we had bad weather like 2008?
We did, but let's talk about where we didn't. We had one year where a tornado warning was out.
Oh my gosh!
And it bypassed downtown. It
That's
just
the weather
scooted right
gods.
away, right? So we
Burning
got
the
lucky
effigy,
there.
It helps, yeah.
We had 2 years ago, I think it was, we had to stop the parade. We had to cancel the parade because the winds were too high.
Gotcha.
And last year it rained like nobody's business. But this year's going to be better.
It's going to be beautiful. I can feel it.
Already.
Now, talking about the parade, we'll get back to some of the other preliminary things, but keep mentioning the parade. How big is this parade? Is it like opening day? Is it crazier? Like, explain a little bit about it.
It is not as big as opening day.
Okay.
We typically have somewhere around 45 to 50 different entrants in the parade.
That's a lot.
It is a lot. It starts at Arnold's Bar and Grill on
Okay.
8th Street. We will go from Sycamore to 12th Street to Main, and we stop at Liberty.
Okay.
Along the route will be all of the festive people watching, but the floats are unique. Like everybody has a goat, monk, beer-themed float. You're not going to find high school bands. You're not going to have fire trucks. You're not going to have, that kind of traditional parade.
Yeah.
You're going to have, well, I can tell you, I don't think they'll be upset if I share. FC Cincinnati, who is the sponsor of our parade this year.
Very cool.
Will be pulling a trailer, flatbed, behind their vehicle, and they're going to have a 3v3 soccer game going on the back of their float where 3 individuals will be dressed as goats and 3 will be dressed as monks.
That's amazing. That's
So,
worth going anyway right there.
That's kind of what you expect to see in the parade.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really cool. And FC's a sponsor this year.
FC is a big sponsor
which is
this year.
incredible. Back in the West End. So having them as a sponsor supporting Bockfest is huge.
It is.
How many people do you expect at the parade? Like,
So we think that we have to quote these things for the city,
Yeah.
when we do this. We think there's about 10,000 people there on parade night
wow.
between all the route, right? All the way down.
Yeah.
Everybody that's hanging out in front of Arnold's Bar and Grill. It's a large number of people that we estimate actually shows up for this.
That's wild. 10,000 people.
Yeah.
That's incredible from this little festival 33 years ago
Yep.
to now. I
Yep.
mean, that's a testament to what you guys have done.
Exactly.
And the city thanks you. So tell me a little bit more about like leading up. What can we expect?
So there's going to be a goat rodeo everyone should know about. That is going to take place at Rosedale. That will be the Saturday, March 1st before.
Okay.
It is a scavenger hunt that will start at Rosedale and end at Pilar, or vice versa. Maybe it starts at Pilar and ends at Rosedale. But you will be instructed to go to a variety of different bars that they will share and announce, and there will be scavenger items that you need to collect throughout. The winner will get some Bockfest-themed gifts at the end of it.
Very cool.
As I mentioned, precipitation retaliation, the preliminaries for Sausage Queen. So those are the things that will be leading up to the main event. But then we have some fun stuff happening Saturday and Sunday as well.
And I noticed that the poster was revealed as well. Every year there is a poster for Bockfest.
Yes.
And Jim Effler, I believe is the artist, correct? How many years? Is this his 30th year doing this?
This is his 30th year.
Wow.
Right. So Jim has come up with some of the most unique designs for these posters. I'm lucky enough, my husband found this at an antique mall. I have one poster that shows all of the posters he did up until 2012 that's signed by him hanging in my kitchen.
That's cool.
Then I also have every other single poster from 2016 on hanging in various places.
Yeah.
But this year's poster is so unique because it is his 30th anniversary. He wanted to do something different, and he was going to maybe do something about Van Gogh and call him Van Bach or something. He wanted to do a play on a major artist, but he came up with Hieronymus Bach. I think his last name is B-A-C-H.
Okay.
And he's changed it to B-O-C-K. Now, this particular artist has a penchant for having a lot of animals and maybe not always the calmest of environments. They're very chaotic environments in his artwork. But what Jim did was took frogs, rabbits, goats, fish,
Okay.
And he has them all wearing various clothing that monks would wear. Some of them are having a fish fry because we're in Lent, and
That's
one fish is
incredible.
looking at his plate, looking at the fried fish on his plate with much disdain. We have rabbits that are brewing beer. We have all of these amazing creatures in this poster. And then the center of it is Germania from the Germania building, the statue.
Yeah.
And she has her hand over 3 Bock beers on a tray. So either she's blessing those beers, getting ready to grab a beer. It's art. You interpret what she's doing, right? But she's the center. And in the background, you have Rosedale, Arnold's, Moorline, Rheingeist, Northern Row, Union Terminal, music, all of the Cincinnati icons are in the background.
Wow.
It's the most amazing art that he's done, in my opinion, so far.
And people attending the festival can buy that, correct?
They can. They're $15. They're available at Rheingeist in our merch booth.
Okay.
But Jim autographs them at various places around Bockfest. So if you want to meet him and have an autographed version of it, he's available to do that too.
That's really cool. And just, this festival I think just highlights as well, not only the beer heritage, but just how creative our city is. It really is, from the poster to the costumes, the parade, burning a snowman. Like, what other city does that? Not just as a testament to how cool our city really is.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
So Saturday and Sunday at Bockfest, as well as Friday with the parade.
Yep.
What else is going on? What can people expect?
So super excited that this year we are returning the Beard Baron contest.
Okay.
So this is not just a contest for men. It is for men and women. But at Northern Row on Saturday at 5 p.m., the Beard Barons will be judged. So you will be judged on the length of your beard. So under 5 inches, 5 to 10, and over 10. They have a whiskerina competition where women can make their own beards out of sausage or yarn or whatever it is that they think is unique.
That's amazing.
I think there's a total of 6 or 7 different categories that they have.
Wow.
So all of these bearded individuals will be coming into Northern Row and be judged and again win prizes based on that. This has not been an official event at Bockfest since prior to the pandemic.
Okay.
So we were so lucky that we're able to bring that back. So that leads up to the main Sausage Queen competition, which is happening on Saturday at 7 o'clock over at Rheingeist.
Okay.
So all of the princesses will be performing everything I just shared, and one new one will be crowned. On Sunday, we have what is very important, the 0.05K marathon.
That's my type of run right there.
164 feet of fun.
I'm in.
For $35, you are able to participate. You will get a specific T-shirt to the 0.05. You will get a medal, which is actually a bottle opener.
Oh, cool.
On a lanyard. And you will get a pint of beer from Northern Row. So that takes place on Sunday at 2. But before that, the street team from FC Cincinnati is coming. And they're going to be handing out goodies to people who are kind of queuing up for the race.
Nice.
They're going to have some of their individuals just kind of teaching kids some soccer moves there at Northern Row. So really excited that
Leading
they're
stretches so people don't sprain their ankle or something.
I need to make sure that they do that.
Yes.
Thank you. But yeah, so they're going to be having their street team there.
Very cool.
Rosedale will be having a pig roast. Also the first time that's been brought back since pre-pandemic, I believe. I think we did have one at Finley Park one year. But there'll be a pig roast dinner. That was a big tradition.
Okay.
All weekend long at Moorline, they have a beer tasting where you can buy tickets. I think it's $25 for 10 tickets, and you can try any 10 Bock beers that you want. We have about 30 different beers to choose from this year.
Yeah.
They are going to have a speaker series on Sunday with some really great topics at Moorline. Live music, they've got Jake Speed and the Freddies.
Oh, wow.
Rosedale has Lunchbox. Rheingeist has a variety of different German bands playing. I can't recall off the top of my head who's playing Saturday night, but there's just live music and food, lots of food.
Just what I need on my diet.
There you go.
Kick off spring and summer, beer, pretzels, and German food. You know?
Absolutely.
Everything I need. Now, you talk about the Beard Barons. Is that a national, international thing?
It is.
It is. Okay.
They are a part of a much larger group. And if you go onto their website, you will see all of the different cities. So The expectation is from Jeremy, the gentleman I've been working with, is that people will come in from out of town for this.
Wow.
To do the Beard Baron and stay, obviously, for the fun.
Wow. So it really does kind of help elevate Bockfest to another level and bring in more tourism.
100%. That's why we're so excited that it's back.
Very cool. Now, obviously Brewery Heritage Tour and Bockfest go hand in hand. If guests come down to Bockfest, can they tour the tunnels? What can they do to check out the breweries?
Yeah. So this year, every Bockfest, we only have one tour running that weekend, all weekend long. Because our staff is so involved in Bockfest. So, right. And it's always a place you don't normally get to go.
Right.
So we're not going to take you into a tunnel you could see any old time with us.
Yeah.
We're going to take you into the Lafayette Brewery. Lafayette Brewery is on McMicken Avenue. It's down by the Schwartz's Point area on McMicken Avenue. It is the oldest brewery building we have in Cincinnati.
And it's still standing.
It's still standing. The Friedrich Billiards was the original owner of that building. The first building he put there was wooden and it burned down. So like the three little pigs, he learned to build back in brick. So he built a different brewery, but he built it before he knew that he was going to be serving a lager style beer.
Okay.
So there is no lagering, massive tunnel underneath of it. He ended up having to build a space on Vine Street, which you may now know is where the home of, might not pronounce it correctly, Fa Lang Tang is. That building belonged to him.
Okay.
And there's 3 stories of lagering tunnels underneath of it.
Wow.
So we're going into the brewery.
Okay.
So we'll be taking people on a tour through his brewery, the oldest one we have in Cincinnati.
Very cool. And now, before we were talking earlier about some of the lagering tunnels as well, and I've heard some crazy stories of what people have done in those tunnels recently. Can you explain what you guys have discovered in some of these tunnels and what you've had the privilege of doing?
Well, the biggest privilege, I would say, we have 2 privileges right now. One was back in 2009, and down where Somerset is today, that is part of a complex that was called originally Schmidt Brothers Brewing Company.
Okay.
Became the Crown Brewing Company, which most people recognize because it's painted on the outside of the building. But back in 2009, there was no access to the tunnels underneath. They knew that they had to be there. They knew what the buildings were. There was an ice house on one side, a brewery on the other side. There has to be tunnels here somewhere.
Yeah.
So members of the brewery district were able to find access and dig out a tunnel that was completely filled with garbage because the future owners were plumbers and plasterers, and they stored all their garbage in those lagering tunnels. So volunteers supporting the brewery district went in and cleaned out the tunnel, and we give tours of that tunnel.
Okay.
So that's one way, as an urban redevelopment corporation, we were able to restore something that belonged to the past.
Yeah.
Right now, we are in another really fun experimental phase with the Bruckman Brewery, which is what many people know as Worthmore Chili.
Oh, yeah.
So right when you come around 74 onto 75, you see the big smokestack on your right.
Yep.
That's where it's located. That site is the largest preserved brewery complex that we have. So there's 6 or 7 buildings back there from, I think, 1865. Don't quote me on that, people, but in that ballpark of buildings that are all still there.
Wow.
We have now gotten access to lagering tunnels underneath one of the buildings. And when we first visited, they were filled with water.
Oh, no.
Filled with water. So we had to make a decision. Do we think we can drain it? Do we think that we can restore it? And we took a chance. But before we took that chance, our board president, Matt Maloney, you may know him. He decided that it would be fun to kayak through a lagering tunnel.
That's incredible.
So he dropped his kayak down into the tunnel, and we will have footage of that when we kind of unveil what's going on in there. And then, sadly, our sump pump, which was doing an excellent job of getting that water out, froze recently.
Oh, no.
So when we went to go do some work on it, we had a literal foot of ice in the lagering tunnel. So we thought it'd be a good idea to take our good friend Matt once again and send him down on ice skates. So now we have footage of him ice skating through a lagering tunnel. We think he is the only person to have either individually kayaked and skated, but definitely the only one to have done both in a lagering tunnel. So we're having it all documented, video documentation. We hope to open up this tunnel for the first time for the public, the weekend of Missing Link Festival in June down in Northside.
Okay.
And we'll be able to start taking tours through there then.
Very cool. Now, with the tunnels, do any modern day breweries utilize the tunnels?
Modern day breweries are not really utilizing the tunnels. We have the opportunity, Cinbev owns the building where we do a lot of our tours, but there's a lot of water seepage in there.
Yeah.
So they would only be able to keep, things that can't get wet at this point in time. The site where Rheingeist sits is part of a Moorline Brewing complex, but there aren't any tunnels directly underneath of Rheingeist. They would have been in the brewery building on the other side of the street. So they're not able to take advantage of that. But we have had Ghost Baby take lagering tunnels and turn them into one of the best bars in North America per Esquire magazine.
It's pretty remarkable they took it from nothing to what it is today.
Absolutely.
It's just incredible. Now, what role do, craft breweries today have in continuing the brewery heritage in our city?
We are so keen on keeping a relationship with the current breweries because part of our mission is to make sure that Cincinnati is known as, kind of the beer capital once again.
Yeah.
We were in the late 1800s, the third or fourth, depending on what period of time you were, largest brewing city in the United States.
Wow.
And then after Prohibition, we came back with only 3 of our original breweries. At one point, we were down to 1, which was Hudepole Shaneling.
Yeah.
And we almost lost that, but thankfully Sam Adams came in and started their production here in Cincinnati, kept that brewery alive.
Yeah.
And then from that point forward, we've seen, the Moorline brand come back first. Then we had Rheingeist, we had Mantry, we had Braxton. We had all of these coming around between 2010 and just growing and growing and growing to the point now where we have over 65 breweries operating between, I'll say, Westchester into Northern Kentucky.
Oh, 65.
Yeah, it's massive.
Incredible.
Right? So it's important for us that we showcase what's happening with modern day brewing.
Yeah.
We support them. For Bockfest, I think we have 26 or 27 different breweries providing a Bock beer that weekend.
Okay.
So that we are encouraging people to taste the beers of all of the breweries.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll like a Bock beer and say, I didn't know that this brewery existed. Where are they at? I'm going to go check them out.
Yeah.
We have one coming outside of our real area called Sons of Toil. They are very east of Cincinnati.
Okay.
They have their beer will be at Rheingeist and at Moorline on the River. I bet a lot of people have never tried them before,
Yeah.
and now they're going to get that exposure where people go, oh, yeah, the next time I'm out that way, let me check them out.
Yeah.
That's our purpose. We want to make sure that these individuals, these companies are getting the opportunity to share who they are with the crowds that are coming down.
It's almost like a beer fest, but for a specific type of beer as well. So people can expect to try the Bock style. If you've never had Bock beer, it's delicious. One of my favorites. And it's just a great time. It's family friendly.
Very family friendly.
You have to check it out. What kind of tips would you give somebody who's never been to Bockfest? What would you recommend they see, do, experience?
There's an app, right?
Okay.
So you can either go to the Google Store or Apple Play Store, download the app. It's just called Bockfest. Very simple, right? It's a registered name for us, so we got it, right?
Nice.
So you look up Bockfest. It is going to give you every venue, every Bockfest hall that is participating. It will tell you who is serving what beer where.
Okay.
It'll tell you what specials they have on drinks, what food they might be offering that weekend, if they have live music, who that is playing. And you will be able to check in at each one of these places. And as you check in, you will be earning points. And it'll keep track on the screen for you.
Yeah.
And then we will have a variety of different prize packages based on who had the most check-ins on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, blah, blah, blah. But I'm also going to do push notifications where the Sausage Queen will be randomly somewhere. I'll send out a push notification. If you get your picture with her at that location, you'll earn some more points, right?
Okay.
So I recommend that if you're coming, you get the app because it's free and it's going to tell you where to go to get what you want. But you really do need to hit each of the main places to see what's going on. If you like a certain style of music, if you want to hear German music, you're going to go here. If you want to buy those tasting tickets, you're going to go there. right, and see everything that's being offered for the weekend. And use the streetcar. It's free.
It's free and it's easy. It hits every spot.
Every spot.
On Bockfest.
Everything we're doing is on the streetcar. I want to give a shout out for one of our new venues this year, Willow Run Bourbon.
Okay.
Now you might think, bourbon, beer. Well, yeah, they go together. You heard of a Boilermaker, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
He'll be having a Boilermaker available at Willow Run. It's by the Aronoff.
Okay.
But this is their first year in Cincinnati. So they're jumping right in and say, we want to be part of this and hopefully draw people into their place that may not have known that they were there before.
And that's incredible. I think, like we said earlier, with the way Bockfest has kind of grown and developed throughout the years and how it's gone from Main Street and over the Rhine to Findlay area and now all the way to the entire downtown area, it just showcases again that it's a big highlight for our city. It's a big festival. It's a draw. It's something different that no other city has. And it's a way to honor our history and celebrate where we come from.
Right.
Man, I'm really excited about Bockfest this year. I can't wait. Tell me a little bit more about the app and, if people want to go see the Sausage Queen, do you show up right at 2:00 if it's 2:00, or should you get there like a couple hours earlier?
Well, you really should. If you're going to watch the Sausage Queen competition, I must say, I saw the Sausage Queen competition at Bockfest Hall when it was down on Moore Street in the Old Husband. It was crowded.
Yeah.
Rheingeist was crowded last year because it was a bigger space. Rheingeist is bigger in some ways than what we used to have as far as people being able to kind of pack in there.
Yeah.
But you have to see the Beard Barons first. Okay. So Beard Barons should be wrapping up around 6:15. I would head up to Rheingeist. It's very walkable from Northern Row.
Yeah.
And start staking your claim. Okay. Rheingeist is going to have, I think, 4 bars operating. Their main bar that you're familiar with.
Yep.
They have a bar off to the right side of the brewing system. Okay. Kind of towards their gift shop. Okay. They'll have another bar in the central room, and then they're opening up the annex with a 4th bar this year.
Oh, cool.
So you'll have the opportunity to not have to wait in maybe some of the longer lines.
Yeah.
If you're going to Moorline this year, they have a much bigger tent than they did last year for beer.
Oh, cool.
It was everybody's first year last year, so they've learned a lot about what to do a little differently. So Moorline's made a much bigger beer tent for doing that beer tasting that we had talked about.
Yeah.
Northern Row has that great outdoor front parking lot. They have a tent in their front parking lot as well with beer out there.
Okay.
Beer inside as well. And Rosedale's going to have multiple bars within their facility too.
Very cool. Well, I just want to thank you again for coming today and chatting about Bockfest and chatting about the incredible things that you guys do at the Brewery Heritage Trail, because it just really makes our city super cool and exciting and just highlights an aspect that not a lot of people think about when they think about Cincinnati. You think about, your skyline and Blink and the big arts things, but Bockfest is such, it really shows the heart and the character and the creativity of the city at a very, interesting level, and I really appreciate what you guys do.
Well, thank you, and we don't do it alone. I do want to point out, I know we mentioned FC is a great sponsor, but the Cervatis, this is their second year of being our title sponsor.
Nice.
So we really appreciate what they've done to step up and be our title sponsor. They also help us out with a lot of pretzels in various ways where we need pretzels.
I have worn a necklace or two.
Yes. So there'll be pretzels available, but Kroger Company stepped up for us big time this year too. Cohatch, if you guys aren't familiar with Cohatch down the street, they're helping us out. Decal Impressions. We have so many different sponsors, OTR Chamber, Merchants on Main. Everybody's kicking in to make sure that this is not a free event to put on by any means. It's free to attend, but we do have to do a lot of fundraising to make this happen.
Well, thank you to those sponsors. The city appreciates it. I appreciate it. I know my friends and family appreciate it as well. It really is a great event, and I'm so thankful that you came to hang out with me today. We're going to drink our beer. Thanks, guys, for tuning in to Salt and Cincy. My name is Andrew again. I want to thank my sponsor, Hubbard Home Loans, powered by Go Rascal. Without this, I wouldn't be here. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you guys. We'll see you the next episode.
Thanks.
Thank you.